happen to remember what my
We're live.
yeah.
Hello, we're live. I'm so excited to be here. It's Carol Lourie. I'm here with my super dear friend Mira Dessy, aka the ingredient guru, which is a perfect name for her because she is going to help you look at your pantry with a new set of eyes. So welcome, Mira. Thank you for spending time with my wonderful community, and share a little bit about how you arrived to be who you are.
Sure. So first of all, thank you so much for having me here. I love sharing this information. One, because it's very hard to find. Manufacturers make it very difficult on purpose, I believe. And
Wow,
two,
yeah.
when you're in the middle of challenging healthcare situations, it's very overwhelming to try to add that one more layer of paying attention to what's in what you're eating. And my job is to try and make it as easy as possible. My tagline, if you will, is I do the research so you don't have to.
That's perfect. I say that to women all the time. You don't need to be Dr. Google. That's my job.
There you go. So how I got to be the ingredient guru is actually quite a story. In my previous life, as I like to call it, was in the technology field, believe it or not. And over time, I just started getting sicker and sicker. And what I didn't realize is I'd actually been ill for a long time, but the symptoms were subclinical, so low level that everything got passed off as something else until I got so ill that my immune system collapsed. I wound up being diagnosed with 5 different autoimmune disorders, and I was living my life on the sofa. I could not take care of my 3 children. I could not take care of my house. I left my job. I was really non-functional. And
so ill.
I'm sorry?
Because you were so ill.
Because I was so ill. I mean, I was so weak, Carol, that I would try to walk up a flight of stairs, and at the top of the stairs, I literally had to lay down and recover so that I could crawl to bed.
Oh my God.
I tried not to go up and down the stairs very often. I would make the children carry the laundry down. Like I just did not have the ability to do that. I did have a wonderful medical team. However, part of the challenge was that they didn't really understand functional medicine, and nobody really talked to me about my food.
Well, most people don't understand the relationship between being ill and food and lifestyle and environmental toxins. And how many years ago was this for you now?
Oh, it was a lot of years ago. I have been doing this work for 16 years, and it was 5 years before that.
So 21 years ago, everyone, functional medicine didn't almost exist. Naturopathic medicine was still struggling in a very big way. And everyone didn't know that. I mean, the information that we know now wasn't out there. So you were really left on your own.
I think part of the challenge also was our current medical system. The doctors all look at everything in little circles. So I had 5 different autoimmune disorders, which meant I had 5 different doctors. There was no one autoimmune doctor. And my endocrinologist did not talk to my rheumatologist, did not talk to my cardiologist. Like none of them talked to each other.
Oh my goodness.
What I learned over time, and I think things are better now in that regard, but it's still a challenge.
Yeah.
And what I learned is it's our responsibility to really be proactive and to force them to talk to each other. And if they won't talk to each other, to carry paperwork back and forth. And
very different doctors.
Yes. Absolutely. Absolutely. And then even more than that, I also learned that I really needed to change my diet. For me, it turned out a large part of what was going on was what was in what I was eating. It's kind of funny because
what was your diet that you were eating? What was the diet?
So here's the funny thing. My friends all used to say to me, "Oh, you're the cleanest eater I know. Like you eat so healthy." And we did, we belonged to the CSA and we grew a lot of our food and I cooked a lot of things from scratch, but we still had junk food, things with bad ingredients in them in our pantry. And part of the change for me was I wound up having an executive checkup at the Cleveland Clinic,
Oh,
where I was very fortunate that I was able to get that. And the doctors really included me. Instead of treating me like a vessel for their knowledge and pontification, they actually educated me about what they were thinking. And then I came home from that visit, and a friend of mine gave me a book that had information in it about artificial colors. And that began I was like, really? I'm reading all of the stuff in this book. I'm thinking, this is crazy. And then I started looking at what was in my pantry. And sure, we had homemade pickles and jams and bread made from scratch and vegetables from the garden and Captain Crunch and
I just love Captain Crunch.
macaroni and
Oh,
cheese.
goodness. And yeah, well, not so much, but a Life cereal and Captain Crunch, and Oreos.
Yeah.
Yeah, God, it's like,
I know. Well, and the funny thing is that you think because you're eating all these other healthy things that the other things don't matter.
don't matter, right?
Absolutely. And what I later came to realize is I'm one of that group of people. I call us the canaries in the gastrointestinal coal mine.
That's an interesting way of putting it, right?
We're the ones that are very sensitive to all of these things that are in our food. And I do want to fast forward just a tiny bit and tell you my primary condition was ulcerative colitis,
Oh,
which basically meant I needed to know where a bathroom was within 5 minutes of where I was standing at all times.
it really limited your ability to leave the house.
Yes, and to do anything, and it was very challenging, very overwhelming, very painful. That's the other thing. People don't understand that any gastrointestinal disorder can be so painful and so overwhelming. So my last colonoscopy, I have no signs of ulcerative colitis in my system.
Way to go.
It is possible to change that, and I attribute a lot of that to cleaning up my pantry, cleaning up my diet, incorporating a lot of self-care, incorporating mindfulness, healthy habits. It's a spectrum of things that we have to do. It's not just one thing that
Right.
contributes to changing what's going on. Yeah.
So here you are, 5 different problems. It's interesting because now if somebody came to me with 5 different autoimmune problem, I would say there's not 5, there's 1. And it's just going out into 5 different areas, and we got to treat the core, right?
Yes, I totally agree. It's a spectrum. Autoimmunity is a spectrum.
So how did you get started? You come home, you look at your pantry, and you realize there's Captain Crunch and over-the-counter peanut butter and all this other stuff. And what did you do? You made a big box and put everything in there and threw it out?
So you have to remember, I had 3 kids at home and they were used to eating a certain way. What I began to do is the first thing for me was artificial colors, because we're very fortunate in America. A lot of our food ingredients are easy to identify because we use real words. In Europe, in Australia, other places, they use something called numbers. So then you have to learn which number is good, which number is.
Look it up.
Yeah. So I started with artificial colors, and I just decided I was not going to have any more artificial colors in the house. And as we finished things, because I didn't throw them out, I confess, I would look for things that didn't have artificial colors in them. It was an eye-opening moment when I realized that had to include personal care products, because my kids were using red, white, and blue toothpaste.
Oh,
yeah, and my shampoo had color in it and all these different things. So we started there. And then the next step on the journey for us, because of course I began reading more books, was high fructose corn syrup and looking for things. And really it was a step-by-step process. And that's what I encourage everyone to do. We can talk about all the different ingredients and all of the different things and where to start. I mean, there are some things that I believe are a great place to start for everybody, but you do it one thing at a time and a little bit at a time, because the goal is to make it sustainable.
Right, that's important.
Yeah, absolutely.
So After the high fructose corn syrup, what kinds of things had high fructose corn syrup in it?
Oh, well, that's actually kind of a funny story because this is also where you learn how to interface with your family. Because chances are, if you're someone who has a health condition, there may not be somebody else in your family who also has a health condition. So you feel like you're doing it alone. And you also wind up feeling like it's an uphill struggle sometimes.
Very much so.
So high fructose corn syrup, the biggest place that I found it was in juices and in sweet things, confections. And I remember having a very, what is in hindsight, terrible conversation with one of my daughters in the middle of the grocery store. And she's screaming, I want my juice. And I'm screaming back, I'm not buying that crap. It has high fructose corn syrup. And people in the grocery store are going, we're just going to walk past that aisle. And what I should have done is purchased it without the child, brought it home and said, oh, well, you know, they were out of that. Let's try this and see if you
Now
like
we know, right? Now we know in hindsight.
You know, don't make those changes in front of them at the grocery store. Try, but the other thing was you have to work really hard to find things that are a good alternative. I was astonished to find high fructose corn syrup in applesauce, in ketchup. Yes, apples are already sweet. Why do they need to add any sweetener? What's it? Not even high fructose corn syrup. Any sweetener whatsoever does not belong in applesauce. Ketchup is a savory condiment. We put it on meat.
It has a lot of sugar in it.
It does have a lot of sugar in it. And the funny thing is, back when I was getting rid of those things in the diet, high fructose corn syrup had this commercial. You probably remember this, where someone goes, hey, want a popsicle? And the other person goes, oh, no, it has high fructose corn syrup.
Oh, yeah.
And the first person goes, well, what's wrong with high fructose corn syrup? And the second person goes, like they don't know. And now we know it's bad for our liver. It can cause weight gain. It has metals. There's so many things wrong with it. And now, all these years later, there are a lot of companies making products that say no HFCS on the front of the package. Like, we can make a difference when we choose to spend differently.
Absolutely. And that's really important. So here we are, and you began to recover your health at this moment, right?
I began to get better. And at a certain point, I had gone through all the books that I could find and all the information that I had access to. I turned to my husband and I said, I think I have to go back to school. And I went back to school. I became a certified nutrition educator and began to start, teaching other people. Actually, the funny thing is, in the beginning, my business was all about whole foods and how to cook with whole foods. I was buying them from large scale suppliers and teaching cooking classes and fermentation and soaking, a lot of Weston Price type food things, and began to do that. And then eventually got the courage to begin to start working with people and helping them with their health journey. And all along the way, I began to become more and more frustrated and upset with all of the manipulation and the deception that food producers do when they make changes to our food, because they put things on the front of the label that is misleading, or they put things in the food that are really challenging and they don't tell us about it.
Well, Mira, this is such an important topic, and I want to thank you so much for spending your morning with us. And do you have a book that you want to show women about?
I do. So part of learning about all the different foods and working with clients, I began to realize there was no one resource that would put it together. And I wound up writing a book. This is actually my copy, still has notes in it. It's called The Pantry Principle: How to Read the Label and Understand What's Really in Your Food. This is a resource book. It is not meant to be a read it once and it goes away. It's meant to be something that you come back to over and over again. Pick a chapter, start there, work on that, and then move on to the next thing and slowly begin to reclaim your pantry and your kitchen. I'm not sure what happened, folks, but I think we lost Carol. So I hope everything's okay technologically on her end. And I do want to thank you for joining us to be part of this conversation and to encourage you to check out the pantry principle. I do want to reiterate, we start with just one thing. We begin where we can with the things that are most important to you. I did mention earlier that I felt there was one thing that was really important for everyone to start with, and that is something called the Dirty Dozen. I know Carol's talked with you about this before. The Dirty Dozen are those 12 fruits and vegetables that are most likely to be highly contaminated by pesticides. There's an organization called the Environmental Working Group, and every year in the spring, they put out a list of what those 12 most contaminated foods are. And when you begin to remove those from your diet, you're actually removing a lot of pesticide, a lot of toxic load, toxic burden from your body. One really important thing to keep in mind with the Dirty Dozen is that you want to make sure that you are following it all the way through the food chain. So, for example, apples are almost always on the Dirty Dozen list. If you're going to be purchasing apples, then you want to make sure that you are also looking at other foods that are made from apples. So, for example, organic applesauce, organic apple juice, anything. In order to avoid the pesticides, you buy those things organic, but that means everything made with that ingredient as well. So I hope that's helpful for you, and I hope that you can get started, baby steps, one step at a time. Thank you so much for being with us, folks. Take care. Bye-bye.